LBC political correspondent Aggie Chambray to help with that, and also the former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. Good to see you both. Aggie, let's start with the front page of the Sunday Express. Their splash today. Pretty's mission to save Chagos. Priti Patel apparently heading to Washington today on a mission to stop what they're saying is the Chagos Islands surrender.
Indeed, Priti Patel, Dame Priti Patel, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, flying into Washington, she says, to meet senior Republicans to basically try and kill off this deal. She has said that President Trump has humiliated Starmer once again by calling out the surrender, which has damaged the special relationship, just like all the other many examples of Starmer's pathetic kowtowing to China. So she says she's going to China and going to raise it with senior administrations because the surrender cannot proceed without American support. And she follows Boris Johnson and also Liz Truss, who both apparently brought it up with President Trump himself. And this, of course, follows what she's referencing there is Donald Trump in the last few days saying the deal would be a blight on our great ally and saying, do not give away Diego Garcia.
Yeah.
And it seemed before like he was back on board with the Chagos Island deal, but now very much not on board with that.
Diego Garcia being leased back, of course, for 99 years if the deal progresses. But Claire, coming at this as a Conservative, it's interesting Boris Johnson and others putting down a firm line on this. When they didn't actually do that before. I think Boris Johnson started the ball rolling on mediation around the Chagos sovereignty, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And it's been one of these issues that's been rumbling in the background for some time. We knew that there was going to be an issue with who had the islands, the archipelago that it's in. And the Conservatives don't particularly have clean hands with this because they could have made a decision, they could have pushed this forward to try and keep the islands, but they actually put it on the back burner and said it was too difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
So I think that this is kind of now playing out. People have understood the strategic location, and I think especially with President Trump, one minute he's on board, the next minute he isn't, and it depends on what our stance is as to whether he can launch aircraft from it, as to whether he thinks it's a good idea or not.
Interesting, Priti Patel heading to Washington, because that's hot on the heels of the Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, being over there this weekend as well, having met with Marco Rubio. I wonder if they mentioned it too. Claire, let's move towards the Sunday Mirror. We'll halve poor kids' school gap is their page 2 headline. This comes ahead of the publishing, we think, of the white paper on special educational needs children and disability children coming tomorrow, we expect, and Bridget Phillipson is pictured there as well. What does it say?
So this is about how you fund schools and how you bridge the gap between those that have and those that have not. Now, I think on the surface that seems a very good idea. When you start to look at what the plans are that Bridget Phillipson wants to bring forward, you just see that this is going so much more to a sort of Corbynite view of spreading the wealth around. So this is wealth distribution by a Labour government. I don't think it's going to make any difference whatsoever. I think it will make inequality in the school system a lot worse. What Labour are proposing to do is, instead of the usual marker that of pupil premium, which is for those children in receipt of free school meals, funding is higher for schools. What they want to do is base it on parental earnings. So those with a low income, their children will be entitled to more money for that school. And you can see how difficult this is going to be.
Yeah.
To administer.
Well, doing means testing is expensive,
Absolutely,
as they found with the winter fuel allowance U-turn.
Completely. So you're going to have to try and find your way around that. And then what are you going to say? So there are schools in the South East, where I live, for example, on the surface, very nice area, but has pockets of deprivation.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a deprived area, so therefore your funding is what it is.
Yeah.
But then to try and take in parental income into account, is that going to skew some figures? Is it going to look like you're giving money to the north rather than the south? So I think that Labour is setting themselves up for a real problem with this. But again, we'll have to wait for the details.
Perhaps they know that because it's been postponed for quite a while as well already. Bridget Phillipson, by the way, on with Trevor Phillips after 8:30. Let's move to page 3 of the Express, Aggie. We're smiling because it's a cat photo. I don't know about you, I love cats and I love a photo of cats. And this is the headline, "No more Mr. Mice Guy says Attlee. Who are we talking about exactly?
Attlee, of course, is the Speaker's cat.
Of course,
who
OK.
seems to be doing an absolutely terrible job with catching mice. There's been 267 sightings of mice that have been reported that was last year in 2025. But, I mean, I think everybody that has ever worked in Parliament has probably seen 267 sightings of mice in just a single day of being there, because it has a massive pest issue. And the pest control bill last year was £154,308. So sadly, Sir Lindsay Hoyle's Maine Coon is basically not doing very much.
That's the type of cat, I gather.
That's the type of cat.
Just checking.
Yeah, there's nearly 2,000 traps that have been spotted, but only 10 spotted that have actually managed to actually do their job. So bad times maybe good times for Attlee, who seems to be having a lovely time just not catching any pets.
I'm glad you clarified the breed, because our director thought it looked like a lynx. Could you imagine if the Speaker had a lynx prowling around the Palace of Westminster? That would be a story. Let's move on to the Times, Claire, both pages 1 and page 3. Now, this is wild. Number 10 ethics unit broke into a safe. Doesn't sound massively ethical, that, does it? Tell us more.
It doesn't. I mean, this is one of the sort of more bizarre stories of the day. So the Cabinet Office's ethics team apparently broke into a safe to destroy the department's copy of a bullying report into the new head of the civil service.
Antonio Romeo.
And when you sort of read further through the article, it seems like, well, their excuses is because they had forgotten the combination to the safe. And
Easily done. Easily done.
I mean, this is something more out of a James Bond movie.
Is it?
I think it is.
More like Austin Powers, I think.
I was trying to be polite to these people. But, I mean, it is properly bonkers that you can just go and break into a safe because you want to destroy something that the department has had put together about somebody who's going to take over the entire civil service. And you just sort of wonder, what else is there that we don't know? And how many times is that going to get leaked out?
It's a really strange one, and well played for the Sunday Times for getting that one. Let's move on, staying with the Times, Aggie, because we're talking about graduate jobs. Now, look, in the last hour we were discussing the papers, we were talking about the massive loans a lot of students and subsequently graduates are being hit with. Now, it's whether doing that degree, getting a first, is going to get you the job you want. If this headline to be believed, she's got a first, now she's working as a waitress, then perhaps not.
And that's, they've got various quotes from graduates, and that is one of the anecdotes in there, which I'm sure would apply to many other people as well. But this is a really, really depressing article, that the number of graduate jobs offered by Britain's 100 leading employers has fallen by a quarter in the past 3 years, and actually the forecast keeps dropping. It seems to be that it's, number one, business confidence. That's been consistently low for 3 years, so the quickest, easiest way of reducing costs is to cut graduate intakes, and also the fierce competition for places has basically led to wages stagnating for those graduate jobs too. And then also apparently there's a massive turnover because graduates are basically accepting the first job they get, thinking, brilliant, I've got this job, and then they get into it and think, actually, this isn't for me at all. But because there's just way less choice, they are just having to take that first job.
It is a massive talking point. It was a graduate with a first in Spanish and art history, as it happens, if you're wondering. Thank you both for the time being. We'll be back with much more here on Mornings after the break.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?